Hey guys, Courtney Mermaid here with another Mermaid School video. In this video I'm going to show you guys how to maintain your freshly painted brand new mermaid tail. Or if you've made one and now you're looking at it and thinking, oh my goodness, it's getting old, I'm going to show you guys some of the tools and things that I use to keep my tails looking nice and fresh and new. So to start off, I'm going to show you guys a really old mermaid tail of mine. For those of you who don't know, this tail is called Miranda, and this was my second painted mermaid tail that I made in 2011. So she is 5 or 6 years old-ish. And this tail has been really loved. It went from having small flippers to larger flippers. It had no fringe, and then it had fringe. I decided to give it fringe. It's been painted over multiple times. I've had sequins added to it. I've had sequins fall off of it. This tail has pretty much seen it all and has definitely evolved over the last couple of years, so I thought I would show you guys up close and personal what this tail looks like after several years of use. Now I will say, fabric tails do have a bit of a shorter lifespan than, say, maybe like a silicone or a latex. All of these tails, it doesn't really matter. It's just the fact of the matter is that they will wear and tear eventually. It doesn't matter what material your tail's made out of, wear and tear is just a fact of life. However, fabric tails do happen to be a little bit more delicate, and that's something to consider. So there's going to be a couple of spots you're going to notice on your mermaid tail that are going to receive the most amount of love, if you will. Your heels, your knees, the area around the base of your fluke on both sides, as well as your bum and waist area. So this tail is made using two-way stretch spacer fabric off of spandexworld.ca. It is the slightly thicker of the two types of spacer that they offer on there, white spacer. So this was white and it's been fully painted. So it does have, now, this is an old tail, right? Like, I use this a lot. This tail has been in the ocean, it's been in pools, it's been to protests, it's been in really direct sunlight for a long period of time when I was doing protests. And so you can kind of see where I've had a little bit of stretching happening here. Also, because my body also changed shape a little bit there, you know, gain weight, lose weight, you know, things stretch and stuff happens, right? But it's also just the kind of fabric that this was, has a little bit of love. But this only occurred, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 years into using it is when I started to notice that I was having some of that. So that's something to look at. So that's when you get wear in that area, that's kind of what it's going to be like. Also, I think that's the back. So it's a little bit hard to see, but you get what's called pilling on the fabric. This is going to be really hard to see. There, right here. Okay? So pilling is like when you ever notice on your clothes, like your t-shirts and stuff, you've worn them for a long time, you've loved them, and they start to get like little bumps on them. Well, it's called, like, pilling is what it's called, like the little bumps. And for that, I use something called a pill shaver. And you can pick these up at dollar stores, you can pick them up at Save-On. They're inexpensive and a great way to deal with some of those obnoxious little bumpies that are going to end up on your tail. So what it is, it's a little motorized device. It takes 2 batteries, just like so. There we go. And it collects the contents in this area, and it turns on. My batteries are low apparently. And there's 3 blades that actually spin around. And I apologize, I'm once again doing laundry, so you're gonna hear that in the background. 3 blades, and that's how you do it. Now with this, you do need to be careful, because if you do have an area where there's actually some damage to your fabric and there's more of a nick, this could potentially cut your fabric, so you have to use this very slowly and very carefully, and not over any bumped areas, and definitely do not use this over your sequins. No. But yes, this is a really important tool in my little mermaid tool belt, if you will. I definitely recommend grabbing one of these guys. I use it a lot, and it sure beats sitting there with the razor blade trying to get them off. or with the, I know there's somebody out there who recommend using like a, just a razor to do it, and no, that's just too dangerous. I don't want to nick the fabric, no. So definitely a pill shaver, very important. Yeah, so the next thing you're gonna notice, so that's gonna be like the waist and bum area. The only other thing that you're gonna notice is the more areas that you sew, the more like that you puncture the fabric, the more wear that you're, you can see, the more wear and stuff that you're gonna get in the areas, and the more that you're gonna be able to notice it. This was how we used to do waistbands on my mermaid tails, and it was effective for the first little while, but it is a little bit frustrating being able to see the lines in there, so I've been doing them differently now. You guys can watch my other tail making tutorial videos on mermaidschool.ca. I'll include the link in the description below, and you can, to get all that kind of information, it's too much to go into right now, so. Right, so the next area that you're gonna get wear and tear, and I don't actually think I got very much of it on this tail, but that is because I'm very careful not to rest on my knees as much. Yeah, you can't really see it. I've also strategically placed sequins in areas where I anticipated based off of the wear and tear of my previous painted tail. I don't have that one to show. I'm not sure where in this apartment it is. I thought it was in my box, but it's not. So I'm gonna have to dig for it at some point because I'm gonna be doing another tail video with all of them. But yeah, so what I chose to do was just to add extra sequins in an area where I thought I might get some more wear and tear. So there's that. Now, probably the single most worn and damaged part of any mermaid tail ever, because everybody stands in their mermaid tails. You tell them not to, but they do. And sometimes you just have to. Sometimes if something goes wrong, or you're dealing with something, or somebody wants you to hop up on the edge and you kind of need that extra boost, it just happens. So this is, I really wish this showed up a little bit better. This is something that you have to look forward to. And if you had fins that have, if you chose to use like flippers or a monofin or whatever, if they had a design or like a texture, like this has little circles, like little circle bumpies, it's supposed to be for grip, right? But you can actually see that they're starting to show through, just through the paint, where the paint's getting worn off. So yeah, so this has been painted over multiple times, multiple times, oh my goodness. And I had added, these are new sequins that I added. Some of these are old and some of them are new. But yeah, so that's what you get to look forward to. So that's gonna be an area when you're designing your tail, try and think ahead and maybe use colors in that area that are gonna be easy to replace, that maybe you don't have to do a lot of mixing to achieve. So I love to say Lumiere paints are really good for touch-ups. I really love using them for touch-ups. Permaset Aqua is my favorite fabric paint. I love everything about it, but it can be a little bit challenging because it fades. Of the two paints, it fades faster than the Lumiere paint. So that's why I choose to use it as scales, because it covers a greater area and it's easier for touch-ups. And that's why this is just for the base color. So if it fades, and as it fades, it's a little bit more natural looking if I have to go in and touch up with these guys. Okay, so that's definitely an area. You're also gonna get damage. You'll note there's a huge, I never got around to actually touching this up, so this is actually raw as is. This is not paint. This is worn off paint, okay? So wherever there's a ridge or a dip or an area that's gonna rub above other areas on the floor of the pool, or if you're in the ocean or wherever you are, this is something that's going to happen. You can see it happens on the sides as well, like this. So that's just something that's going to happen, okay? It's just going to happen. That's why I chose to use Lumiere all the way down the sides, again, because it's easy to go over and match the color. Like this was all blended stuff. I have one base color here, and then I mixed to get the rest of these colors to have it gradient all the way up to this lighter color here. So it's much harder to match, which can be a pain. That being said, this is why I recommend that you, if you're able to actually keep I actually keep these in my fridge. I do need to actually put these in their own containers with lids. But to get yourself a good quality container to keep the paint, the extra paint that you've mixed for specific areas, it's really important because you're going to need that later on, I guarantee it, because the tails will need to get touched up at some point. It's going to happen. It just is. As a fact of life, mer life here, and you're going to be really grateful that you don't have to attempt to remix it. If you are really good at mixing paint, maybe you're, I don't know, an oil painter, or you work with acrylic paint or whatever, you'll know that you can actually write yourself out a little recipe for how to remix the paint. It's not like, I have never had much luck with that being super accurate, but it is possible to write yourself, okay, I used this spoonful of this, or I used this much of that, or whatever. You can keep a little log, because eventually this may dry out, or you'll just run out of it and need to make more. So that's another thing that you can try and do as well. Okay, so aside from that, this is what an older tail looks like. I do not make tails in this style anymore. I now use the Aquarius Monofin, which is nice and flat. I can show it to you guys. This is what the Aquarius Monofin looks like by Finis, or Finis. Don't come after me in the comments. I call it Finis because, frankly, Finis sounds nicer than Finis, but that's just me, okay? I've had this discussion before. Yeah, so this is what this looks like. Because you can see, it's actually nice and flat. I don't experience quite as much wear with this one as I did with the thicker. Like, check these guys out. These guys are quite thick, all the way down to the sides. These are nice because they give you really good form and good bones to work with, but this is, it's just better because it's so much flatter. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys one of my newer tails that's actually completed, Goldfish, and some of the areas that Goldfish is experiencing some wear and tear, because Goldfish is definitely a different tail altogether than this one. Okay, so Goldfish, yes, here we go. This is Goldfish, for those of you who don't know. Goldfish is kind of my Patreon-themed mermaid tail. And so far, the main areas where Goldfish has sustained damage is going to be areas where I unfortunately... You learn from my mistakes. That's the beautiful part about mermaid school, is I've made so many of these tails now that I'm learning what's working and what's not, and you guys don't have to make those same trial and error kind of mistakes that I have, because I've done them already. So now I know how to do it. But what I did was I painted this first before gluing it in, so it's basically every time I use it, it peels apart just a little bit, and then I have to go in and I've got to re-glue it. It's a whole thing. Don't do that. No. But those are the areas that are currently dealing with the most wear and tear off of her. Overall, she's this kind of thing. She's still in pretty good shape, considering. She's only a year old and has only been used a couple of times in the water. And it's, so far as I can tell, I'm not getting the same like hot spot, like damaged areas as I've been in previous tails. And I'm pretty sure that's because... Excuse me. That's because of, yeah, I'm still sick, by the way. Still sick. That's because of the Aquarius fin. But the other thing that I took into consideration this time is I've actually got a dorsal fin that comes further down and does create a little bit of a barrier by my heels, and is helping prevent a little bit of damage. It hasn't sustained a lot, just a little bit of wear and a little bit of tear, not a lot. So yeah, overall, there's a little bit of pilling on this one as well, not a lot, but that's just going to be in the areas where I've been sitting on it. This is actually looking pretty good, all things considered. I've lost a few sequins. That's another thing that I should mention quick. If you've made a sequin tail, regardless of whether you sewed them in or whether you glued them in, you are going to eventually lose sequins. It is just a thing. They are little pieces of plastic and little pieces of foil, and they will come off your tail. You're not a bad tail maker. I'm not a bad tail maker. It's just life. Everybody loses them, okay? Everybody. Trust me on this one. So what do? As you're working, you want to always keep aside some sequins. You don't want to ever use up all your sequins, because imagine this now. You've got a gig and oops-a-daisy, you completely forgot to touch up your tail. Oh my goodness. Oh, and oh, by the way, it's going to be a dry land gig, so everybody's going to see it, okay? What are you going to do? You're going to order sequins in 3 days and hope to heck they get here in time? No. Always keep just even a handful. Like these are ones off of the current tail that I'm working on. Just keep a couple of guys. As I'm using them, as I'm just collecting them, you know, ones that fall on the floor, I mean, waste not, right? So always keep some sequins aside and always keep a tube of E6000 glue, okay? Always do that. If it goes on sale at Walmart or Home Depot or Rona or wherever you are, that your home hardware type store, E6000 glue, you want to keep a tube of this handy. Just for those emergency touch-ups, right? Good. Yes, linear paint, the regular paint, the thing. Okay. So the big question is, how often do I touch up my tails? To be totally honest with you guys, every time I use it, it does get a little bit of wear. And this is just like your clothes have the same problem. Other tails will have the same problem. It's just on a fabric tail outside of the water when it's dry, it will be a little bit more noticeable than maybe another type of tail. But I am a fabric tail enthusiast through and through. These are my babies. I work really hard on these. They're works of art, so you treat them as such. You never want to just leave your tail in your bag soaking wet for days on end. You are going to ruin it, okay? It is important that, and this is probably why it's so important that you try making your own tail so you can really appreciate how long it took you. This one that I'm leaning on right here, I'm not even done yet. It's taken me about a year. I actually looked back at the timestamp on one of my older videos, and I started these in August of 2015. Yo, that's a long time to be working on something. So if you do a little bit here and a little bit there, you know, when you get home from your super chlorinated pool or your super saltwater ocean, you throw this sucker in the tub. You maybe even put some baking soda in there. You know, not a lot, just baking soda helps neutralize everything, right? So it's a good thing. I love baking soda. Baking soda for everything. Baking soda is some kind of miracle. So good. But yeah, that you just maintain, you know, look it over, make a couple of notes. So when it's dry, you're like, okay, I lost a couple of sequins here and here. I've got a little bit of paint chipping here. I've got a little bit of something here. And the more that you stay on top of it, the less it's gonna just start adding up. Because some little things can start to build. Like if you notice, oh crap, I got a tear in my tail. Like there was a video I did in 2011. I'm at, where was I? Lighthouse Park, I think I was at. And I was in the ocean. What the heck I was doing in the ocean? It was so cold, you guys. Oh my goodness. And my mom's like, no, go out further, go out further. I'm like, I am going to freeze to death. This is gonna happen. And a little crustacean, like a little shell guy, clamped onto my tail. I mean, I was flattered. I'm like, thank you, man. I guess you think I'm part of the ocean. That's really cool. But he clamped onto it, and he actually tore a little bit when I pulled him off. I mean, I couldn't take him home with me. I pulled him off and put him back in the water. But if you notice like a little tear or like just a little loose thread or something, I mean, get on it. Don't just leave it. Set aside a little bit of time here and there to work on it, okay? This is an effort. This is a work of love, like a labor of love. Like you are doing this hopefully because, you know, it means something to you. So this is probably another reason I don't sell tails. I think I would just die if people didn't take like good care of them. I think I would just have to like keel over dead somewhere. But for me, I treat my tail kind of like it's an extension of my kind of spirit, if you will, if you want to get all, you know, spirity. And so I kind of like, I like to be treated nicely, and you know, you want to put the good energy into your tail, right? So it brings you something good back. So that's all I really have to say on this point. I know I've rambled on for, oh my goodness, 21 minutes. Woo! Probably going to edit this down a little bit. But I do get asked how I maintain my tails. It is definitely a process. It's definitely a labor of love. You do a little bit here and a little bit there, and it becomes less of a challenge and less of a chore. And I mean, above all, making sure your tail dries out completely before you store it is going to be my biggest thing, because you guys do not want to smell one of these after it's been in a bag for 2 days and is sopping wet. Those are not pretty. Bacteria, and it doesn't smell good, and blech. So, I hope you found this helpful. If you liked what I had to say, or you've been enjoying my videos, please feel free to give this one a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more epic mermaid awesomeness. On Mondays, I do my weekly vlog updates. On Wednesdays, of course, I do mermaid school updates. I've got lots of cool things planned for the future. A couple of holiday type crafty videos I'm pretty excited for. I've got still a lot more to cover, like mermaid tops and accessories and things, and regular spandex tails, how to make those nice and quick. On Fridays, I'm hoping to still be doing these frequently. It might become a little bit less frequent as I've got other opportunities and things on the horizon, but I do like to do some nerdy fun videos or just extension of other content and things like that on Fridays. I try to keep it mermaid themed, have a little bit of fun with it. And anyways, yeah, so happy tail making, happy swimming. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Okay, bye!